one. All right, so there's a lot to go through. Trying to go through it as quick as possible. Basically, we want to do a focus group very similar to how Destiny. I really don't like the title of this. Destiny Black Pills an entire like no.
Yeah,
Let's not.
it's
Let's
far too
not. Let's
strong.
not.
Yeah.
Let's not use that word. We need words.
And
But like that's it's
yeah.
too much because it gives the overall notion that people are now black pilled and everything's wrong and bad and terrible and there's no hope. So basically, white pill gives hope. Black pill does the opposite. So we need to be
Yeah,
careful with the words we're using.
and especially it's very pushy. I feel like it's not about that he changed everybody's mind, especially here it was a group that was willing to listen. So that's more aggressive. It's too aggressive.
Sure. Yeah, it's also showing that like they believed everything that Destiny said, um, at face value because now they're all black pilled because
Yeah,
they all now have
exactly.
Destiny's judgment. Though it was a very lengthy process. But anyways, what we're gonna do here is take turns being the presenter and then the Socratic interviewer. What that means is that we have um, this right here is the five phases of the mantle, which the mantle, the reason I call it that is because we need to all have a high level personal responsibility of the very complicated topics that affect all of us that we really care about. That we need to make sure that we are very, very clear on what is right and what is wrong and what we should or should not do. And I think the level of ability for us to be fools, to be wrong, to be credulent, to have any level of hasty judgment, to arrive at hard conclusions before we like is too simply. I think the list is long. There's
Hmm.
over 100 different logical fallacies the average person isn't taught. They're not caring for it. Everything from the bandwagon fallacy to call to authority logical fallacy. I've even seen many people that seemingly feel like they understand what these things are and how they work, misusing them, misunderstanding them. Like this is a very
Hmm.
complicated
Yeah.
process, and so here, um, whenever we're going through any of these things, basically we're gonna do it take turns. Is any one of us. So you have all your ideas. So, okay, let me
Hmm.
preface it with this: that we all have. Everyone's trying to figure this out. Why are we so why is the discourse inside of the United States of America so bad? Why are our battle of idea conversations over very complex topics that seemingly the majority of people care about? They affect a lot of people. Go to the trans issues, dude. Go to anything. Go to immigration. It doesn't matter. Every single one, the vast majority of them, grossly affect the American people, affect people we care about, and we need to solve these things. I think so. We're seeing that inside of our interpersonal. So the two main areas that I'm trying to go through here to where we can analyze media of the conversations. I truly believe the average person is legitimately every single day, even if they're not having conversations, they are engaging in the battle of ideas. What I mean by that is like
Hmm.
even if they're not having conversations, the reason they're not having conversations is because their conversations are so bad. Their list of taboo topics that they will not talk about, they know they cannot talk about with the other person because it gets into this insane, stupid level, screaming blame game war match where we're just yelling insane level, terrible levels of obscenities and pejoratives and slurs at one another, and why we're even doing that. The rate of disconnection inside of the United States of America right now is paramount. I think it's happening everywhere inside of all democratically minded egalitarian societies. There is significant issues. We need to figure out what is happening so we can um, not all be blackpilled and actually solve this. So there, I as we go through this, one of my main arguments is there are canary in the coal mine variables that we should be asking the health of a nation, and one of them should be like even Destiny recently said, "Oh, it's totally fine that the left and the right are enemies with each other." I fucking no, he's absolutely wrong. But the way that he's right is that we absolutely are opponents of one another. Meaning that if you are center right on a position and I'm center left, we are opponents. You think something not completely different, but different enough to where you would make a different decision on
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is. And for us, how our society makes decisions, we either have a dictator that sets the laws for the land and has high level conformity pressure to make all of that take place, and high level rules of enforcement of blasphemy, threats of death, all these different things. You sanction your own fucking people. But inside of the United States of America, we're supposed to be able to resolve our ideological conflict at battle of ideas. So we should be able to measure very well inside of the average person that engages in these conversations and the average politician, the average academic, and the average thought leader when they're engaging in any of these conversations, that overwhelmingly people are seeing, or we are reaching thresholds of agreement to where we actually can make changes together, and that's not
Yeah.
taking place. There's just so much data
And
that shows that we're not that we're absolutely talking past one another. I'm just going to show two pieces. Go ahead.
yes, and for a basis there, I feel like we're at a point where it's not even that we can really, as stupid as it might sound as first, disagree anymore. Because to really disagree, we got to understand the opponent's opinion, and we're at a point where we're so far apart that we can't listen to the other one. We just say, yeah, we disagree, but do we really understand what we are against and what the other one says? And yeah, the base of understanding what the opinion of the other side is, of everybody that is different to yourself, is so far gone that yeah, in my opinion, we can't even really disagree anymore, because we don't even really know what the other one says. We just say, yeah, we disagree, but nobody can, even without asking to strawman to like the highest level, but just give me the basis of what you disagree with. What is the basis of what the other one is saying? I don't ask you to strawman them. I ask many people to just tell me without strawmanning them. So without giving your own idea of what their opinion could be. No, just tell me what did you hear from them? And most people couldn't tell you any real point of what is the opinion on the other side. What is the opinion you disagree with? It's just like bad, and like they can tell you an overinflated version of it, but not the real version.
Yeah, like Tim Pool constantly says that the right, like, so much better knows the left's arguments, and I think there's
Yeah.
a little tinge of truth there to some degree, but largely he's trying to make the case that, okay, the average conservative has extremely staunch views, hard conclusions about socialism, about Marxism, about Karl Marx. Are we trying to say that the average person has actually, the conservative has actually read Karl Marx to arrive at those conclusions? No, they're doing what every other fucking thought leader has, or every group does. They just regurgitate what their thought leaders say. Their thought leaders are doing their justification process for them. That's how the vast majority of groups work. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so one of the um, things we're going to do is we're going to go through a lot of different media. So podcasts. We're going to get. There's actually a lot of really good reality TV shows that are not as bad as like The Bachelor and things like that. Though I still think
That's
there's some
good.
decent behavioral data there, but there are ones that are
Sure.
actually about people's
Yeah.
lives. They're inside of their home, of family. One of the ones, this one is so fucking fascinating. It's called My Unorthodox Life,
Mm-hmm.
and
I know. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
inside of this, well,
Sounds.
sure, but we're creating a video for other people to
Yeah, I
watch
know.
as well.
Yeah, I
But I
know.
understand.
I'm sorry.
Uh, no, you're totally fine. My unorthodox life.
Orthodox life. Yeah.
So, so in this woman, who I think has
Hard to imagine that just a few years
a lot. Oh yeah, let's let
ago,
her
I was
explain it.
living in an
Yeah.
extreme ultra Orthodox Jewish community, and then I just packed up and left. Because one thing you can say is we have a very interesting life.
So it is there's two seasons of it. It is
Mm-hmm.
so fascinating. I think we can actually show, one, how extremely enormously complicated it is to be a good person, because it's not simple. That two,
Definitely
this
isn't.
whole thing of that the average person can actually just, instead of common sense, know what is good, just use intuition or whatever it is. She goes from an incredibly fundamentalist Jewish society where she's not allowed to read the vast majority of the religious texts that dictate the laws for the lands that she everyone else has to obey by. She's has to clothe herself up to, like, to close to like far right Islam. Um, she can't drive. She's not allowed to divorce her husband. All these different things that are show that she's a second class citizen inside of her society. She leaves that community when she's around 40 years old, and then you literally see her use all of these new, like, the critical flaws that are inside of liberalism to then arrive at really erroneous conclusions. While she also does a lot of good, she can only see the good in that she does, and she destroys. At the beginning of the first season, she's married. That's how she got to this place of where she's so chosen. She marries
Mm-hmm.
this guy, Silvio, and he is the owner of the World Elite Group. So her status just goes up, and there's a lot of good in her. However, we see that she by the second season she's divorced, and so is her eldest daughter. They both are independent women. They're badass bitches. You literally she shows you many different times. She specifically states her judgment creating rule set of, I don't care what is, I only care what should be. That is literally the whole thing between conserving and progressing over any complicated idea. What should a woman wear in society? What should we allow psychedelics, and why? Whatever it is of what the current rules are. If you like, so the American Constitution, if you think that there should be another amendment, but you want to keep everything else, you're conserving the whole document and adding one thing. That is,
Mm-hmm.
you're doing a conserving and progressing process right there.
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted to add one and remove one and then change like a word in each one, you're still doing a lot of conservation and progressing some things. And it's the whole complicated process by which we do any of these things. The rules for engagement, the rule set for the laws for the land. That's why the title for this main document that I'm working on is called the CIB ISI rule set. That's crabs in a bucket rule set versus iron sharpens iron. That we're currently inside of a crabs in a bucket rule set where, and we need to create the iron sharpens iron one that actually allows us to move past it. That's my argument. But anyways, so we take turns going through all presenting our different theses as to what we think is happening, what we think the core problems are, where we think that we see them, and we'll take different times of like debating each other throughout the week or throughout the month, as after a person has presented. So let's say, Paul schedules for next Thursday night. On Thursday night, we're all there. He presents his ideas just like just like Destiny did. At different times, we'll figure out what are some like good structures for how these things go. And then we'll try them out. And even here, we're creating a rule set of how to do whatever it is to reach goals together. And this is what
Mm-hmm.
this is all ultimately is. The core fundamental problem is, how good are we together working as a team for similar or shared goals, or are we not working together as a team, and we're all against one another, and we're using emotional coercion, cancel culture, we're using so many different forms of manipulation to force the other person into what we want them to do because we can't reason with them. The pressure release valve for all of this, I truly believe, is showing people we actually can, with extremely much higher levels of standards of doing all of this. I truly believe the average person right now is at a Pell standard, pathos, egos, logos of 1. I actually think they're 1. And people are going to think I'm talking shit. People are going to think that I hate the average person. I don't. I'm not talking down to them. I
Yeah,
am
no.
only
But
trying
yeah,
to
it's
accurately represent what I truly believe something is, and that's it. I actually truly believe we can all care for our biases. When this epistemic standard, this Pell standard, if everyone, the average person, average thought leader, average academic, everyone is actually at 9, dude, 9 out of 10, we can all very extremely well care for all of our biases because we are all educated on what they are. We all know very well how they work. We know how to fucking do it. But so one of the things we have to see is that the average person is not taught an extremely long list of different biases and logical fallacies that all make a person arrive at different levels of of truth and falsehoods, or basically levels of rational thinking and levels of irrationality. That biases will create levels of irrational, and I'll show what one of those are. One of the main ones that I believe that I have found, and I know that I'm kind of like doing a little bit of my presentation here, but I'm trying to only go through a little bit of it at the time to try and give some idea. This right here, the contempt bias and the nice bias, that when I go to judge you and I don't know that this bias exists, and I see your laziness as a 4, so the objective measurement is 4 out of 10. However we measure your level of laziness, objectively it's a 4 out of 10. But my contempt for you that I'm not measuring, I'm not caring for it. I'm not doing a Jordan Peterson know thyself test of measuring neuroticism, compassion, and all these other things. I'm not measuring my contempt. I don't know. So I'm ignorant of this. I go to judge you. I make your 4 an 8. I don't see a 4. It's not a 4. In my mind, it's an 8. You try to tell me anything otherwise, you're gaslighting me, you're making excuses, you're a fucking lazy piece of shit, and you need to get the fuck up. So we use a contempt bias to exaggerate the bad behaviors and ideas of other people, and we downplay their good. And then when we go to do the reverse, the other side, the mirror side of that judgment, to judge yourself or your in-group, you will exaggerate your own good ideas, you'll exaggerate your own good behaviors, and you'll downplay your bad, especially as the other side is constantly they're doing the same thing. They're doing the contempt bias, and they're making your bad ideas and your bad behaviors look worse than they are. So when both people have really low Pell standard already, then they also have this unconscious bias. I call it unconscious sin because Christianity and the left are right. Unconscious sin exists. Original sin exists. This is fucking it. We need to learn ourselves out of this thing to know very well how to judge ourselves and each other, because when we don't do that, we are constantly just yelling and screaming inside of these extremely terrible levels of drama going back and forth. That's why we can go through and see these things when Destiny is doing like this DM conversation right here with AJW and Sean and Connor. So much happens in this conversation that I think is extremely apparent. I don't think anything's self-evident and obvious. It's only because of our justification process we see things that are apparent or not. But like, want to be able to show what they are. Like literally, Pisco and Connor in this conversation are mocking each other's ethical standard that they are also showing that they both have in the conversation, that then at different times mock the other person's standard, which is us being crabs in the bucket, tearing down the other person's standards, saying you're not allowed to have that standard if you're part of my in-group, if we're working together. Because I'm attacking you on it. You're not allowed to have this principle. And then Destiny at multiple times actually grossly exaggerates, does a contempt bias judgment of Connor. He says that Connor, for 50 different times in the conversation, so this is 45 minutes in the conversation, so he's right, there's multiple times that Connor's trying to bring up a past conversation that Sean and Connor had at a debate on crime. And he thinks, and then Destiny thinks it's useless. It's absolutely useless. It's not relevant. It doesn't need to happen. Connor thinks it's relevant. And even here, we see this misaligned standard of what is relevant and why that we all have, and we bring to conversations where, like, what is the weakness inside of all of us, that how we are the Ouroboros, we are the snake eating its own tail. You and I are not even establishing that we have a different standard. We have different definitions of words. We have different understandings of the concepts of what, even like the slippery slope fallacy in how it works. I've met so many people that have no fucking clue what this thing is and how it works, or they largely grossly misunderstand what it is. Like I know somebody that says like there is not a fallacy in it at all, and they only show this problem of where, yeah, if you push it down the hill at all, if we go for if on what women can wear, if you go to far right Islam and you try and convince them out of moving it down, they're right. If this boulder moves, it comes down, it fucking destroys your society. Your society, this is the extreme chaos boulder, and if you move it, if you push it forward, it will destroy society. Unless you know how to have actual social integrity standards that you can maintain in society of, no, we can have a center left position, center right position, and women can show a little bit of cleavage, they can have all these different things, and we've all used a battle of ideas to negotiate where that line is, and then we know how to uphold that. Anyone who goes out of that, we're able to say, hey, that's improper, we don't like that, and we're not berating them, we're not being terrible to them, but we are saying something. Anyways, like, they don't even know what this is, and we're just dealing with, sometimes in one moment we are literally dealing with 7 different logical fallacies. We're dealing with like in like a 10-minute conversation between two people. There's people's understandings of free will versus determinism, the continuum fallacy. Like, we're just dealing with so many complicated problems happening all at once, and we're not taking the time to see it. So that's one of the very first things that I want to do, is like immediate solutions are seeing that we have these misaligned judgment standard, this PEL, pathos, egos, logos, epistemic standard. We need to get all thought leaders to see we're not using the same standard, that the standard is very low, and we are lowering each other's standards due to acts of defection from the other side. That's one of the things, like, in Destiny, he's constantly trying to show that, like, he's justifying like what happens with his rhetoric over in the Firefire, and he's right in so many ways. And trying to get anyone that thinks that they watch any moment of Destiny, like when he's yelling at Prodigal right here and like just yelling obscenities at him and like,
That's not an
fuck
answer.
you,
When Donald Trump says that he wants to kill the families of
fuck you, fuck your guy side. Like, this is why I never take any of you guys seriously, or like. There's just so much that's happening. Like, one of the main problems we're dealing with is we're all kicking each other off of the seat. You have no right to have a seat at the table. I've heard Destiny say this multiple times about Republicans on many different topics, and in a lot of the ways he's really right. Of course, we like to earn the seat at the table. Like, we need to see that with this thought experiment. So when you're looking at this, we're a town of 20,000 people. Let's just say there's 5 seats around the table. Representing multiple different groups, far left, far right, center left, center right, center. And then we're all saying no one else has a right to be here. And we're using all these different things. Women are emotional, men are logical, therefore men should be the leaders and the dogmatic dictators. So no women at the table at all, ever. So any battle of idea conversations that happen inside of our political sphere or home life, that's it. Men are in charge. They're the leaders. They're the hierarchical ones that never get to be criticized. Or you're only emotional and you have no logic. You remove gender, completely, sex out of it, and it's just if you're emotional, that's it. You have no logic. This is Ben Shapiro's facts, versus your feelings. Or progressives have no right to have a seat at the table. Conservatives have a right to seat at the table because they're retards. They're fucking dumb. They're stupid. Like, we're constantly doing this discrediting thing in conversations. And as soon as somebody sees, oh, you don't care what I say. You're constantly just trying to remove my voice. You're talking down to me. You're belittling me. You're mocking me. And I'm trying to show people that there is value in mockery, but there's so much harm. There's so much harm. You're literally making everyone's elephant. If you know the Jonathan Haidt's Elephant versus the Writer, our elephant is this emotional being that needs to be quelled. It needs to be calm. It needs to know that its physical, spiritual, emotional well-being is being taken care of. It's being understood. And the more that there are significant problems of increasing the stress inside of our society, and then every time people try and go to have conversations with other people about them, and we're all doing this thing of talking past one another. I have this thing called the warfare escalation principle. We're manufacturing contempt, where we're all measuring harm over a long list of things that forces us to have to conserve and progress ideas. So we have to then engage in the battle of ideas. But what's happening is because of very low Pell literacy that's not taught to the average person, and we can talk about why that's happening, because I think that even that alone, why that is the case, is, I think, enormously long, complicated topic. But you have people that are already bad faith, You have two groups of people, basically. Bad faith people that have very low to medium levels of contempt. They also have a very low Pell standard, so I think it is easily 1 out of 10 for the average person. What ends up happening is that when these people argue, there's good faith avoiding argument actions. A person that does a call to authority logical fallacy from a husband to a wife over, let's say, the complicated topic of whether or not to fertilize their baby, let them cry it out. They don't know that when they say, honey, you're not a doctor, the doctor's recommending this. Honey, there's a scientific study that says that it's true and it works. So they're constantly calling to authority, and then the problem isn't that we can call to authorities, which absolutely should be able to reference anything, any book, anywhere, a 3-year-old child to the highest level scientist that's 100 years old. It doesn't matter. The problem is when we avoid the other person's argument. It actually physically causes harm. It actually causes harm to the other person. You avoid their argument. You do not engage in any of the things. So therefore, what if the action of the Furbrizer method is low value, high harm? But the person can only measure the value, and they don't think it's low. They think it's high. They think it's high value, almost no harm. So in their mind, their cost-benefit analysis of the action they're doing that they can't be logically reasoned out of, that they don't, that they love each other, they love their child, they love the husband loves his wife, but he doesn't know. So he's constantly trying to engage the battle of ideas with his wife, and he doesn't know he's avoiding the arguments of his wife anytime that he does anything. And the list is long. There could be like 9 other people in that conversation, in that room, in that household, and all of them agree, and the wife is the only one. Bandwagon fallacy literally at play. When people aren't taught these things, they cannot care for them. Therefore, they'll consistently do them, and it builds up a resentment and contempt. We're literally manufacturing the contempt. So this increases the tally for unfairness. That increases a person's lack of consideration variable. My concerns of me caring about my child and the harm that is coming, the emotional, physical well-being of me isn't being considered. So then the resentment increases the contempt, and then it just goes over again. And then the very low goes to medium, the medium goes to high, to very high. Like, we're literally manufacturing contempt because we're talking past one another, because people absolutely have to get their ideological conflict resolved. We cannot just agree to disagree all fucking day long.
Yeah. Gonna leave my tablet real quick. Be right back. But I still
sure.
hear you.
All right. So, there's a lot to go through. I mean, I'm going to go through like the game theory, axis defections, and go through my things. But I'm trying to get back to the focus group. We need to, come up with requirements for the focus group, so we have rules, we have room for error, we could all make mistakes, but obviously we cannot have 100% tolerant society. It's absolutely impossible. We can't all just it literally makes it where we can't work together. Like, seriously, this is a huge one for me. If people are drawing the dogmatic line in the sand and they're saying, no, you're not allowed to criticize me here, no, we're not going to go any further, no, we're stopping at this point, we're not going to look any further here, you're overthinking it, that's a semantic argument, all these different things that people use to not allow us to investigate something further, that I think is consistently happening inside of conversations. Is one of the things that I'm seeing. We need to be able to see whenever we're doing that, and we need to give charity, a lot of charity, for exploration of discovery, to go down and like, okay, well, maybe you're right, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're not overthinking it. Maybe we do need to understand there is something here that we either need a tool we're missing, we're misunderstanding something, whatever it is. Like, we need to allow this ability to go through these things. Like, 'cause I think we need to see that, like, we're constantly inside of this normalcy bias of, well, everything is great, everything's amazing to some degree. Look at all the science, look at all these different things, look at all this prosperity, all these different measurements of the good of our society, the good academia. It can't be that we're so bad and so wrong. Like, one of the ones I was trying to pull up for Destiny, he was reacting to the whole it's not Lauren Chen. Is it Lauren Chen? Yeah. No. Fuck. What's her name? Yeah, Lauren Chen. Is it Lauren Chen and Lauren Southern? Yeah. Yeah, right? Yeah. Yeah, Lauren Chen, Lauren Southern. But anyways, Lauren Chen indictment, and in that stream, he talks about how like um, he doesn't trust so many people, like when they even cite sources of that they even read the book, even if they put, and I agree with him, like we are at such bastardly low levels, and one of this immediate solutions that I think that we need to be able to see is a high level one. We need to see that we're not operating the same standard. Two, we need to figure out how to create that standard. Three, we need to make sure that it's the thought leaders that are taking this on. We don't go to the average person and go, well, your Pell standard fucking sucks, do better. We're not there yet. We're going to do that. Order operations first is that all the thought leaders need to first very specifically see what these are and get on the same page first. So Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, Destiny, Vosh, like seriously, we're about to either all kill each other or we're about to have some decent level of highly cooperative teamwork where we're figuring these things out together. Uh, the things that allow for all the I think this is an insanely
Mhm.
oh, is your microphone? You can take your microphone with you?
Yeah, no, I can turn everything over to my phone. There's an app. It's called Audio Relay. I don't know if it's
It's really
iOS.
loud. It's real. Your mic
Sorry.
sucks. No, you're fine. You're fine. It's like
I'm
it's
sorry. I saw.
it's okay. It's just really distorted. It's really loud. I need to turn you down actually. But yeah, go ahead and fix that. I'm sorry. Don't worry about
Oh,
it.
I should be again over the normal
yep,
mic.
so
Now
much
it
better.
should be
Yeah.
real great. Yeah. I'm still trying to figure that out because yeah, I want to have the mic I can take with me, but yeah, right now it's not set up right. So yeah, I'm sorry. I just tried that. Should have done that another time, but just yeah,
It's
I
fine,
went
man.
for it.
It's all good. Yeah, no.
But
Again,
yeah.
room for error. We need to be able to make mistakes. We need to be able, and then, but we need to be able to consistently see and also measure that we are realigning our standards of all this. But anyway, so yeah, so like, because I would be debating with people and be like, okay, well, then how do I go to like this flat earther and I convince them? And I'm like, hold on a second, like it's a good question. However, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not asking the average person to go and try and debate with the most craziest people that have really bad ideas right now. I'm saying order of operations, just like in math, we need to do many different things first. We need to get all the thought leaders looking at this particular problem. And I think if actually the average thought leader actually looks into this and does anywhere near the level of the work that Destiny has done on January 6th, we all focus on what is the standard, where does it come from, measure it in the common sense of the average person, the average thought leader, all these different places. We will see just a long list of extreme weaknesses that are constantly being used and exploited that allows us to constantly be pitted against one another, that will make it to where we will never reach ideological resolution enough or agreement in order to be able to make any decisions together. And because of that, I mean, it's just another thing that's part of my argument, but and I'm not going to go into it, explain too much of it, but not resume browsing. No, 4 boxes of liberty. Google search. Um, look into the 4 boxes of liberty. If you haven't seen it before, I'm just going to give brief explanation. Soapboxes are national conversation. So this is our battle of idea conversation over any complicated topic. Ballot box. This would be one of our many different political processes by which our voice is heard. Jury box, same thing. You have grievances. You can file suits against your state. You can file complaints against the federal government. Like the amazing people that created our American Constitution gave you the right to literally, as the average sovereign citizen, go and file a complaint against your city, against the state, and against the federal government. There are problems with it, but they at least saw that out to allow you to have these jury processes where grievances that people have and groups that people have are allowed to be able to get addressed to some degree. Like the whole Texas versus Pennsylvania over the whole election thing, and then the Supreme Court didn't hear it. So basically, the overall notion is if either side is measuring enough unfairness, so acts of defection, inside of the first 3, inside of our jury, ballot, or soapboxes, we will absolutely get to the fourth, and absolutely criticize me. You don't think that? You think there's another one in the way, or why wouldn't? Like, we'll go through that. We'll all debate all that. But I'm just trying to show the one of the things of like the urgency of where we're at. So like, imagine it was, is it 1929 that the stock market crashed? So imagine it's 1928 and we're all trying to figure out how to stop and prevent that thing from happening. That's what we're trying to do right now. I truly believe we're about to have stupid levels of system collapse. I think there's too many things that are unsustainable. And when we even get into measure things like we're going to have a birth rate problem. There's the low testosterone that's ever increasing instead of men, that actually goes to grip strength, that actually goes to our military prowess, that literally makes it to where we're no longer the world stage leader, and that fucking will shift things insanely, enormously a lot. Like, there's just so many things where we're dealing with inflation and the gas prices. We're dealing, like, there's too many things that when it gets to a certain level, it hits a threshold, it breaks, the system fucking collapses. It's a powder cake moment, and then who knows what our world or the United States of America is going to look like after that. And I think we can absolutely save it by understanding what these gradual canary in the coal mine variables are that we can measure. Like, if the average person is engaging in conversations, is constantly like the whole thing with Paul's ego on him thinking that Finkelstein won the debate in the 20 minutes that he saw of between him and Destiny on the Lex Friedman thing on an extremely important issue between Israel and Palestine. We're talking about kids dying. We're talking about really lots of bad stuff from both sides. And then his level of standard is mockery, that Finkelstein sauced Destiny because he was able to just constantly gum up and be an agitator inside of a battle-ready conversation, literally preventing us from ever reaching thresholds. Just imagine everyone valuing that. Okay, everyone's going to value that now. Great. So, Paul, you and your group, me and my group, we're all going to now, as we go forward in conversations, we're going to be like, yes, that's what we should do. We should all just be agitators. We should make sure that we're just making sure the other person can never get what they want. We're going to constantly mock them and tear them down and be berating and terrible to them. And let's see how good our battle-ready conversations are at that point. But we're already in that. We're already there.
Yeah.
The 2016 elections where Trump was just constantly, that's he didn't have substantive policies. He had mockery. He won because of mockery. And it was, this is not a standard. This is just one of the many different places we can show that our standard, our Pell standard of what we want inside of the leader that controls a large portion of the national conversation over complicated issues. And so instead of our battle-ready conversation, this person is going to control a lot of what is being happening there, where we're focusing things on, what rhetoric, how are we framing things. And our standard is so low, we just want the person who does the best mockery, the one that memes the best. Like, we're in a clown show, and we're fucking clowns.
Yeah. It's unfortunate reality. But yeah, definitely that's a basis on where we gotta try to get together. And like, hey, I'm looking forward for the groups, to the groups, because like I think there's a lot to be done if we try to discuss and be open about it. And I think if it's done the right way, things like this can change a lot of minds.
Yes. Yep.
They have the possibility. Like, yeah.
Well, I think they have the
Yeah.
extreme high certainty. Of course, it's difficult. But what is the strongest pattern throughout the history through the last like 400 years of human civilization? Love and enlightenment is consistently won. The United States of America isn't a Catholic ruled monarchy.
Mm-hmm.
Like the French Revolution. The better ideas are continuing to evolve, and what we need to be able to do is continue to iterate and make better ideas. But we had a bit of build. I don't think it was ever perfect. Like back here, when we look at this data right here this is Congress, and this is their voting patterns from 1949 to 2011. I don't think 1940 this is perfect at all, but this is definitely better
No.
than whatever the fuck is going
Yeah.
on here.
But yeah,
So I
but
think the
yeah.
best we ever had for our Pell standard was probably around 40%. Like I don't think we were like, oh, like all these people are so fucking good. There were 10 out of 10s, and I don't think
But
that
yeah,
we'd all be like right on top of each other if we're all 10 out of 10, but I think we'd be a lot closer. Like the circle would be a lot closer. We're
yeah,
able to
sure.
establish and because this is all about bridging the two realities. You have your views and judgments of many different complicated things on, let's say, whether or not marijuana is good or psychedelics at all, and there's just too many complicated variables to be able to go
Yeah.
through on where we need to bridge the two realities of what we should be able to do on even building a foundation of understanding of which psychedelics are. Can everyone just drive with them? Is that totally fine? Should we have laws against that at all? How about everyone? Can everyone just grow MDMA or make MDMA themselves? Can everyone just grow whatever it is they want? Ever? There's no problems. There's nothing there. We don't need to have conversations. So like right now, is it simple as yeah, we just criminalize all psychedelics. There should be nothing. We don't even have conversations about it to draw any of the lines. Push a button. That's it. Like I think we'd have extreme chaos. I wouldn't do that. I think psychedelics are great and amazing. We're about to have a psychedelic renaissance, which is one of the reasons I think that this is all going to work really well and Love Enlightenment's going to win again. But I wouldn't push a button and decriminalize everything. We need to first again, our over operations, fix our national conversation on complicated issues, including this one, and then we need to figure out how we're going to mitigate it. We can't just have these extremely powerful things and have no levels of mitigation inside our society. We will there will be just too much harm, absolutely too much harm.
Yeah.
People will break their brains and
Most
become
definitely.
schizophrenic to a long list of things that happen in society.
Yeah. But to be honest, like history in the past is what gives me the highest hope, because like in the past we saw exactly this, where systems got extremely rotten. It was different, and like especially now, like especially because we have been evolving so fast the last couple of years, especially with like the internet and everything, is of course far different. But we have seen stark change and like how small groups that build and over time get more to them overthrow these problems. So that's the only reason why I kind of still have hope for like, hey, movements like
we
us
can't
being
just
able
constantly
to start talk. Yeah.
Are you talking about revolution? Is that what you're saying?
Not directly. Revolution in the past was one kind of thing that happened. I don't believe we need a traditional revolution right now. I think we do need a kind of revolution, a thought revolution, a revolution of how we have conversations. In that sense, we need a revolution.
Yes.
But it's I
Yes.
think it's that kind of mindset. Like it's the
But
same
not
that started
revolt,
a lot
not
of
revolt. Yeah, not revolt against the government and try and overthrow it and tear
No,
and
no,
tear
no,
the
not at
system
all.
down.
But
Right.
like
Yeah.
that's the thing. It's like always from time to time it's different what's needed, but the basis is the same. The basis behind the revolution is the same thing I think we need right now, and the same thing that gives me hope, because the revolutions we had in the past were able, and in these revolutions what had to be done was changing also a lot of minds and focusing a lot of minds on something, and it was able to be done starting from small groups, and that's the thing that gives me hope right now. While I absolutely don't think in like a traditional revolution right now at all, and that shouldn't happen, but like for the conversation revolution, it gives me hope that maybe things like us, for example, and some smaller groups building, that they might still have the chance to view the whole thing and push it in the right direction. When I look at other actual revolutions, how their small groups were able to push the mindset and bring it into the right direction. Because otherwise I would right now be like, hey, the groups that are willing to push are so small. Who is it still possible? But looking at history, I'm like, hey, it's a different situation. We aren't looking for a traditional revolution, but times are completely different. So especially right now, it's kind of a revolution to change the idea of how conversation is done. Maybe we can do it a similar way with small groups that are able to slowly push over the whole close-mindedness and yeah, still a little bit of hope. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I have a lot of hope. I'm so incredibly white pilled. We're going to figure this out. We're going to get figured this out. We're going to
I
get
hope so.
these ideas and not just mine ideas. Like I forgot to preface this at the beginning, but like Peter Attia did a TED talk on diabetes, and he was trying to show that it cannot be the conventional wisdom that obesity causes type 2 diabetes, and he lays out all of his different reasons why. Then he doesn't then go and say, well, I know exactly what it is and this is what it is. He says that I have my theories. Everyone has their theories. We need to figure out what is causing insulin resistance. So the same thing here. We all need to figure this out. We need to make sure that no one's carrying the truth. Whatever the truth is way more important than anyone's ego. I don't give a fuck about my ego. I really fucking don't. I care
Yeah.
about these ideas. I care about them being right. I care about them being true. But I take the average person that I've ever talked to, I take what they say very personally to where I question whether or not my moral core philosophies are wrong. I don't go, nah, they're just fucking dumb. I don't give a fuck. Nope, they're level one. They don't know anything, so just dismiss it all. I don't care what they think. Not at all. Absolutely not at all. It's hard, it's a difficult process to be able to go through and parse through of like that's really bad judgment. I don't know what they were saying there, and then I like this. This is good, and it's difficult process to do that, especially if you ever get into the blame game war fights of like yelling and screaming at one another, which definitely can happen at times. It's hard to parse through those judgments when they're calling you. Or like I was in Destiny's Discord server, and one of the women said I was an ignorant c word. We're streaming, so I didn't want to.
Oh damn.
Otherwise I'd say it, and I'm not offended. Like I get it. Like I get why people are mad. In fact, why Destiny is extremely mad, and he the whole firefighter thing. Why he said that, and then why he's so. Which one is it? Where he's so mad and he's yelling at Man, I don't know what I did with it. I need to go find it again. Um, but it's the not Elon Musk one,
Yeah. Yeah. The fake Elon Musk. Yeah.
and then he's
To kill the
Destiny's
families of terrorists. You think that
debating with Prodigal, like if the
Yeah.
average conservative libertarian is going to watch just this moment to judge Destiny, I think one they should absolutely watch this moment. But I'm not trying to remove and go, oh, don't look at that. Look at it, but you should look at so much more. I have one of the friends that I worked with before, and hopefully one of these days get enough money to be able to hire him. He says it takes him about like 40 hours of listening to somebody like on a podcast or whatever it is before he'll make his judgment of that person. Like he's getting a lot more breadth of a person, because we all have ranges of bad behavior. None of us are perfect
we do.
in any way, and we all display levels of hypocrisy in our views, and we need to be able to see that. Like I think if Destiny were to go back and watch even 4 months ago his debates, he would go, I was wrong there, I was wrong there, I was wrong there, but I was still right here, 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 and here, here. Like we're gonna still due to the complexity of the topics we're discussing, there's just so many areas of where we frame something. There's levels of where we can be wrong in it.
Yeah. Most definitely. Yeah. Yeah. Like yeah, that's fairly obvious. And like I feel like Destiny even kind of said it a couple times. He always was like clear and why he wasn't completely giving it away, because for him, and that again is kind of a point I understand right now, was where he was shown like yeah, I will never completely openly say like how something I said back then was wrong, just for the reason like, hey, everybody else is gonna pull me through the dirt for it. while
Yes.
nobody else does it. And like they literally said something wrong 2 days ago. I said something wrong before I knew certain knowledge, and I changed it with knowledge, and it's like months ago. And if I agree to say I said something wrong, everybody gonna pull me through the dirt, while the other
Yes.
ones something wrong yesterday.
Yeah,
Something
he's
wrong
right, and
fucking
that's why
yesterday.
that's why our standard has to get so much higher. Everyone needs to be
Yeah.
policing their own to this much higher level standard, and people should be going through and watching their past debates and going and then doing the same process. Can you care for your contempt bias and your nice bias when you
Yeah.
judge your own
Yeah.
fucking
Yep.
words,
Yep. Yep.
let alone your thought leaders? You like Karl Marx, you like his ideas. Can you do that while you're reading anything from him? Are you able to care for your contempt bias or nice bias? I mean, obviously, if you really love him, it's trying to care for your nice bias, but trying to care for the
Yeah.
contempt bias of anyone that would criticize him is the thing you would have to do as you're analyzing his words. So one of the things we're going to do is watch things like the 2 hour debate between Destiny. I think we need to do dissertations on these things. But one of the things we're going to do is we're going to all try and figure out, okay, what is this Pell standard? How does this work? And then as we
Sounds
go
good.
through these things, at the end, we're going to give like an overall score. But then like really it's going to be rated to I believe, and I want to know what everyone thinks, but I think it's going to be something to the I have 4 elements of form here, and this is the performance of any action, so criticism, praise, or speculation, all these different things inside of, and this right here means team problem solving, battle of ideas, social negotiations. All right, so level,
Sounds good.
so the first one is the ability to perform the steps of logical reasoning to form one's knowledge and competency of a complicated topic. So, like the war on drugs or psychedelics, trans issues, whatever it is. Then your level of ability to articulate those ideas, your facts, perspectives, logic, etc. Your ability to steelman the other person's positions. Actually, don't don the robes of the devil, play devil's advocate, scale the wall of obstinance. How well do you actually do that and legitimately make their arguments and validate them? Your ability, and then one's ability to reevaluate your own logic, your ideas, and everything after you're analyzing any potential flaws after you've done the whole thing of steelmanning the other person's justified beliefs. Because we have to also see that it isn't just. Wait, what the fuck did I do with the levels? Oh, here they are. I think intuition's level 1. I think opinion is level 2. Then there's justified belief. Then there's firm justified belief, and then very firm. And then maybe we can have different ways of like talking about level 4 and 5, and maybe there's higher than that. We could just start with 5 for now. But even here, even at level 5, no one would ever avoid criticism or dissent from anyone. It doesn't matter if it's a 3-year-old girl, whatever the status is, whatever their knowledge is. We have to make sure that we're specifically always caring for dogma and taboo.
Yeah, I would almost with a justified belief with the second one put in front of like a tested it's not a justified belief because I can justify a lot on my level, but it's a tested one. So something I tested with a test of testing it on the other ideology, on the idea of strawmanning the other belief. So it's a justified belief that has been tested. It's not the perfect wording, but something in that direction I would try if there is like maybe a better word for it. So like a justified belief that was somehow tested on like the steelman or like another idea, because first we justify things based on like our ideology. And then the question is, can we justify it if we take other ideologies into consideration? Which I would say like, hey, that's the level up. Like, oh, it's justified, but not just on my ideology, but I justified it in the connection of a different different belief, different ideology.
Um,
Yeah, I'm not sure if that makes sense.
well,
Might
sure,
not.
but this isn't the process. This is the arrived level of understanding. Like
Oh, okay, okay, yeah.
after you know something is true, how well do you know it? How much do you think, like what level are you at in terms of like how much you fully understand, like you've concluded, X, Y, and Z things, and So basically, as everyone's speaking, we're speaking a portion of truth, missing things and wrong all at the same
Sure.
time. So if that is true, what as you go up the scale, like intuition,
Mhm.
this portion of truth this person is speaking is is a lot lower.
Yeah, sure.
So between the three things, it would be that at so basically very firm justified belief means that they have a much higher level portion of truth. But they still care for where they're missing things and wrong. That's why we do this thing of never avoiding criticism and dissent from anyone, because we know how to do that. Because if we do that, you're the arbiter of truth. You're fucking done. You are the arbiter of truth on this topic. No one can criticize you, and your ideas are dogma, and you're doing that. It doesn't matter if you
Okay,
understand
but
80% of a topic. We can't figure out that 25% because you're an
yeah.
authority figure in academia that won't let us. We can't criticize you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Completely. I would go even further into it for a second, but yeah, I have to about head out.
Yeah, of course, Ben.
Two more things, like basic things overall, for future, like especially if you plan like a talk or something, if you let me know like a day or two before, I can even most of the times I'm able to, because I know it's kind of difficult with all of yours time difference to me. I can stay up far longer, so that normally isn't a problem, at least if I plan it before a little bit. Um, Other than that, if I could test really quick, because I changed something about the phone connection for when I'm away, if I could test my mic for a second and you can let me know, I would switch for a second and can let me know how it
Yeah,
sounds.
I'm just gonna pause the recording real quick. All right. So I do apologize for this not being as structured of a video. I apologize that it's a little bit longer than I thought it was going to be, but that's usually par for the fucking course. Um, these topics I think are enormously complicated, especially just the topic on how we arrive at truth. I think is I think it's which is why we haven't figured it out by now. Yeah, I think it's just there's just so much to care for, and there's so many reasons why the average person, anti-intellectualism things, which is some of the beef that I have with, I really like, Paul. Wait, which one is it? It's argument this one, but his whole anti-intellectualism thing is really, really, really annoying and bothering. This is one of the videos that I want to go through to make some content on. Like him not knowing, him thinking that it feels like he's saying that understanding the definition of insurrection is irrelevant, and I think he's actually stating something that is horribly immoral, not just on that one thing, not just insert the definition of an insurrection, but semantic arguing in general, that it's bad, it's terrible, and I think this is actually an incredible pervasive notion that is inside everywhere in our society. Semantic arguing, again, I truly believe the average person thinks that as soon as, like, if you and I were debating right now, and I'm like, man, that's a semantic argument, the approved thing that's supposed to happen is you're supposed to now just drop it. We're not supposed to have semantic arguments ever, ever. And I only see a few people like Pisco and Destiny that will counter that. Like I remember on Destiny stream, somebody says something to that effect, and he in his chat, and he's like, "What? No. Why would you ever say that? You're supposed to have semantic arguments or something to that degree." These are the definitions of the meanings. Semantic is just the definitions, the meaning of our words and our concepts, and these things are critical. I think I'll just wrap up this video with this last thought. I truly believe that every single conversation that the founding fathers had in constructing the American Constitution, every single piece of that was a semantic argument. You have of what should go where and why, and because of the great care that they had in trying to construct the most novel form of government, complicated separations of power and checks and balances. I mean, these individuals in many different ways, extreme marvels, and of course they have many ranges of bad that we needed to be able to talk about. And the American Constitution is absolutely flawed as well. We have problems, but semantic arguing is incredibly essential, and we need everyone to see that. Not knowing the definition of insurrection is actually fucking so. I can't believe that Destiny doesn't like when people ever try and show that, oh, we don't need to know the definition ever of insurrection. I don't know why he doesn't like get extremely upset, because it makes me really upset. It just means the average person that is ignorant of the thing can easily just do it. Hey, look, they're doing something against us. Exactly what Trump did. And hey, they stole the vote for us. We need to stop the steal. We need to go and protest at the Capitol on the day when they're trying to certify the election to hopefully stop the steal. And the average person not knowing what the definition of an insurrection is means they'll easily go and do that, not knowing they're causing any amount of problem. Immoral. The average person, I truly believe that Christianity is, conservatives are so fucking right. We need to be personally responsible. And everyone, including conservatives, there's a long list of things that need to be in our common sense to ensure that we're never the fucking credulent, naive motherfuckers that are constantly going around and doing really bad things that are forcing other people to submit to our will, like cancel culture, doxing people, libs of TikTok, to the left when they were constantly canceling all the people on the right. And this is all because of ideological conflict, and that our battle of ideas conversations have been extremely bad for a very long time, and that is unsustainable. We cannot have a liberty-minded, egalitarian society where we're supposed to be able to make our decisions by arguing the battle of ideas, reaching thresholds of agreement to be able to enact change in policies inside of the laws for our land. That we have majority and super majorities of, enough people agree on this thing and we're going to do it. We can't do that process if there's just stupidly high levels of acts of defection from everyone participating in the battle of ideas and the political system. Thank you for listening, and let's figure this out.